So Maxxxine is the third installment of this unconventional trilogy by director Ty West, all starring Mia Goth. First we had X, which was a classic trashy 70s, 80s slasher style movie. Then we got Pearl, which was a prequel dealing with the old woman character from X and what she was like in her youth and how desperately she wanted to be a star. And now with Maxxxine, we are going further into the future, and we're dealing with Mia Goth's character from X and how she is dealing with the PTSD repercussions and everything from X, as well as trying to expand her movie career and become a real actress. But when it comes to tone and aesthetic, style, and even the thread line of the plot of the movie, it's all completely different. So to say, hey, if you liked X and Pearl, are you going to like Maxxxine? It's kind of up in the air. It's kind of 50-50. It's really going to depend on your sensibilities because all three movies are so distinctly different from one another, even though they all take place in the same universe. It was a really creative idea, and I like that he did it. I would have been fine with just X and Pearl, but expanding it even further going into Maxxxine, I do think this movie offers a lot of great stuff to it. But whether or not you're going to enjoy it or find it the best of the trilogy is really just going to depend on your sensibilities. But overall, is it good? Yeah, overall, I thought it was good. The basic gist of the movie is that this now takes place in the 1980s, so you're going to get all of that classic 80s aesthetic and music and the neon lights and everything that you want to see about the 80s if you enjoy that era of time. And it also takes place right smack dab in the middle of Hollywood as Maxxxine is trying to break out of porn and get into legitimate movies. So she got her first role in a horror movie, which plays directly into her past trauma that she's bringing into the role, but also at the same time, she's kind of being stalked by somebody that knows about her past, and of course it's catching up with her without giving away any spoilers. So she's dealing with a lot of things that are happening, murders start happening, the Night Stalker is on the loose, and there's a lot of different horror elements to this movie, and that's kind of one of the things that really stood out to me about it is that I feel like this movie is kind of a love letter to 80s horror movies. Not that it necessarily follows the formula to a T, but it really embraces that aspect of why we love horror movies and the fun of making them and the behind the scenes aspects as well. I love films that are about making films, and although this movie is not directly about making a film, that is a big component of what Maxxxine is doing as she gets hired onto this horror movie. She's learning about her role. We see a couple of scenes, she interacts with the director that's very passionate about the film that they're making. There's a whole sequence that takes place on the set of Psycho. So you can see very much that there's admiration here, going into this movie, and I like stuff like that. I love movies like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Ed Wood or just movies that are kind of set in that world and about making movies. It's a nice little meta aspect of film that works for some people. It might not work for others, but I love it every time that I see it. And it also goes through different stages of making movies. Like there's one scene where Maxxxine has to get a head cast made for her character. And so they put all that clay, or I'm not sure what the substance is, that like clay that they put on an actor's face and then it hardens and then they take it off and they can make a mold of their face for whatever reason. And there's a really scary sequence, or at least a tension building sequence where she has this shit on her face and something may or may not be happening to her and she's just kind of stuck there and she can barely breathe just out of these two little nose holes. It was really effective, so I appreciate things like that in it too. But many of the horror aspects of the movie are happening either psychologically or kind of behind the scenes for a while. So you basically have Maxxine's plot line that is going in that direction of, like I said, her trying to break out of the X-rated world and into the mainstream world of movies, while also, people are getting periodically murdered around her, people that she knows, and it all kind of links back to her past, all kind of links back to X. It kind of brings everything full circle and everything together. Although I will say I do have some negatives about this movie that I'll get into. I'll try to do it without spoilers, but I think the build-up was great, and I think the aesthetic of the movie was really good. And I thought everything about the filmmaking aspect and sharing the love of horror movies, and just seeing Maxxine kind of dealing with that PTSD from X, because she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. You know, she's very reserved. Whereas in Pearl, you know, Mia Goth's performance was so extroverted, it was so big, it was so bombastic, she's screaming all the time. She's playing a different character, I know, but the difference between Pearl and Maxxine is just very reserved, you know, and part of that is maybe because she's like a drug addict, but like part of that is also, I think, just dealing with the PTSD that she went through from the first movie, where, you know, she is willing to kind of lash out and defend herself, but she doesn't really ask for help very often. She's very much just reserved. She's got this thing that she wants to do. You know, she's like, this life that I deserve, I want to become this actress, yada, yada. And if anybody tries to fuck with that or interfere, she has no qualms about pulling out a gun and stepping on things that shouldn't be stepped on. Now, I did enjoy this movie very much, but I do want to say that there is a reveal and a climax to this film that, for me, brought it down a few pegs, just because the very nature of it, I felt, has been kind of overdone. And I just wanted the reveal to be something different. I guess in my mind, I was imagining all these different places that it could go, and then it kind of went with the most basic option, and I was a little bit let down by that, I'm not gonna lie. Another positive. Oh, sorry, before I get into negatives, another positive, Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is fucking awesome in this movie. He plays this like private detective character, and he toes this line between being really corny but also amazing at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. He just turns on the Kevin Bacon charm. He gives himself an accent. I love his outfit that he wears, his little detective outfit. Oh my god, dude, it's so funny. He had me rolling a couple times. I gotta say, that standout performance, Kevin Bacon, was so much fun in this movie. You got Giancarlo Esposito in there as well. He's a really cool character. A lot of great, actors in the supporting cast role for sure. But again, when it comes to your enjoyment factor of this movie, if you're a big fan of X or a big fan of Pearl, I can't say whether or not you will enjoy this movie because it's so different from the other two. You know, and actually, I would say it's the most different. Whereas, you know, Pearl at least takes place at the same location that X takes place at. You know, this movie is in the middle of Hollywood, so it's the most different. You know, and Maxxine has evolved a lot as a character as well, so she's a lot different too. So yeah, I can't say. So you'd probably have to see the movie for yourself. I'd say it's likely that you would enjoy it, but maybe not as much as the other two. Because they're all so different, I think I would rank them in the order that they came out. I think X would be my favorite. Pearl has the best performance from Mia Goth. You know, as an actor performance, as a character study, you know, I think that's the best acting performance of all three. But if you're asking like my full total package, complete enjoyment of the movies, I would go X, Pearl, then Maxxine, but I do like all of them. All right, so I'm going to get into spoilers real quick just because I want to talk about the ending. So go ahead and leave the video if you don't want spoilers, but please like and comment to help it in the algorithm. I would appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, the ending reveal of it being her father that found out all this information and him being involved with this religious cult and everything. I just feel like the religious cult thing has been done so much, especially when you're kind of in a Hollywood setting, that I just wanted a little bit more from it, I guess. And like the ending kind of turning into an action sequence with a shootout. I don't know. Like, it's not that I can think of a better way for the movie to go, you know, off the top of my head. I'd have to like sit down and really think about it. But it just seemed like a strange climax for the two other movies being so like twisted in that horror world that this one kind of just turned into, well, Maxxine gets tied up, two detectives come out, there's a shootout, you know. And I like that they gave Maxxine the final shot at the end to kill her father, you know, because they cut away from that at first, you know, acting as if that didn't happen in her kind of fantasy, but then it went back, because if they didn't allow that to happen, I feel like it would have totally taken every amount of agency away from her at the end of the film. And that's not what you want to see. After you've watched your character go from 2 movies kind of fighting back against all of these forces that are constantly attacking her, you want to see her get the final blow. So I'm glad that they, retcon that. They went back and showed, okay, she did. Not sure how she didn't go to jail after that, but I guess self-defense, why not? I also don't understand how her father got the VHS tape from the first X. Granted, it's been a while since I've watched X. It's been about at least over a year. So maybe there was clues in that I just didn't pick up on, but I don't remember, like I don't know how he got all of that information. It's revealed that it's her father, which okay, but I guess I just forgot. I need to rewatch X. Maybe there's clues in there that I missed. So yeah, all things considered, I do think this is the weakest of the trilogy, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's enjoyable. And I think that if you're doing a trilogy marathon or whatever, I think all 3 of these movies would be really fun to watch in a row. Also, I do want to say, if you haven't watched some of Ty West's other movies, because I see the X trilogy talked about a lot, but I don't see a lot of people talking about House of the Devil or The Sacrament. I think both those movies are fucking awesome. So if you like his X trilogy, go back and watch some of his earlier horror films, because those 2 are both pretty damn good. Anyways, yeah, so that's my review for Maxxxine. Overall, I give it like, I guess 7.5 out of 10, somewhere around there. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Like the video. I'll talk to you later.